back to Dub's Domain. I'm Eli, and I am joined by my friend and fellow Warriors superfan, Nate. In this episode, we'll go over some recent Warriors news and give our opinions on how we think the Warriors should move forward the rest of the year. We'll also go over the Bucks game and talk about how important that game might end up being.
All right, so we're going to start by talking about this Bucks game that we just played last night. But before we get into that, just talking about the big issues we were facing, the 4 or 5 games before this last game against the Bucks. I mean, obviously, the 53-point blowout to the Raptors. I'm not even going to talk about that because I just can't put the will to do it. Specifically, though, I want to talk about the Hawks game. Just the bench scoring, we had Poole struggling a lot these past few games. He wasn't shooting well at all. And he was, we were talking about it a lot, is he was our fuel on that second unit. And with him struggling, our whole bench was struggling. Defense, though, was the biggest thing. The defensive discipline for us was absolutely horrible. I mean, the way we fouled the Hawks 26 times, giving them 45 free throws, and we only had 21 free throws attempted. And when you think about that stat, it's just incredible that we fouled them every possession, it felt like, and we were fouling shooters who weren't going to make the shot, odds are. And
right, that was the biggest issue for me, was the fouling the jump shooters. I mean, it was really bad. It looked like a college game. Like, we looked like a college defense.
Yeah. And one thing I did want to mention is Juan Toscano-Anderson wasn't playing these past 2 games, along with Nico Mannion. JTA got in the fourth quarter against the Hawks, but it was for like 3 minutes or so. And so it was just very interesting. I want to know what your thoughts are, and just obviously bringing up Mannion, trading Wanamaker, and him not even playing in the games anymore. What do you think?
Yeah, that's one of the most interesting things to me when I think about this trade deadline and just this season in general, is how, for the first time in a while, it seems like the Warriors don't know 100% what they're doing. You just mentioned it. We traded Wanamaker and presumably to play Nico Mannion more, to get him some more run time, so that he could be a reliable guard next year. But we trade him away and we sit Mannion, and he doesn't even play the last few games, which you're right, completely right. It's really confusing. And our whole bench has kind of just been terrible the last few games.
Yeah.
Like you were mentioning, Poole was on a bit of a cold streak before this last game. Bazemore could not shoot. He was shooting less than 20% over the last 4 or 5 games before the Bucks game. Overall, we couldn't do anything. We looked terrible.
Yeah. So the Bucks game, obviously, is just so much better.
Right.
Even with no Mannion, no GTA. I think a big thing that we saw was Stephen Curry. His brilliance was so clear that he was carrying this team. We got up to a really, really fast start. Wiggins was locking up Middleton for the first couple of minutes. Middleton started cooking, and then it went downhill. But I think the most clear thing was, I can't say anything but Steph Curry. I mean, to me, he was obviously the biggest impact. Really stressful game, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Steph legitimately looked like the best offensive player of all time last night. I mean, you talk about Drew Holiday was on him the entire game, one of the best perimeter defenses in the league, along with the Bucks themselves just being an amazing perimeter defensive team.
A lot of guys came out and said he's the best defensive guard like 2 days ago.
Right.
That was the thing.
Exactly. And Curry was being double teamed almost the whole game.
Yeah.
So for him to score over 40 points in with that much defense on him the entire game is absolutely incredible. And it just continues to show how amazing Curry has been, and how the people who doubt Curry's killer instinct or his ability to carry a team are just flat out idiots, to be honest.
Yeah. You're right. It's just crazy how good he was playing. But also, I think one of the big things that we saw was the second unit obviously had its struggles, but then we saw at the end of the second quarter, we saw Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, Draymond Green, James Wiseman, and Andrew Wiggins as that lineup to finish the quarter. And well, actually, Oubre came in at some point, but we saw this lineup for a little bit. And I think this is a really intriguing lineup because they played great together. The ball movement was really, really good. And it looked like Wiseman, like honestly, for one of the first times this season, it looked like he knew what he was doing with this lineup. I think playing with those three ball handlers, even Wiggins, who can ball handle a little bit, really, really helps the spacing and the movement. It was a really, really good lineup. It was intriguing. It was fun to watch. And I just wonder if this is going to be a lineup for the future, if this is going to be something we see a lot moving forward. But it was a really fun lineup. It was an effective lineup. So kudos to Kerr for figuring out to use this. Hope he uses it more in the future.
Yeah, that it was really fun to watch and really intriguing. It was I wasn't necessarily expecting it, but when it rolled out and played great, I mean, it shows how the potential of Poole and Wiseman together. I mean, we've seen Poole and Wiseman together, and when they are clicking and hitting on that pick and roll, they've looked great together. And then you
That
add in
one, that
obviously
one play.
Curry, yeah, obviously Curry, obviously Wiggins, and then Draymond, probably the three best active players on our team this year into that lineup, and it just was really effective. And it was exciting to see a lineup that was semi new and worked so well.
Yeah, that one pick and roll with Poole's pass to Wiseman for the alley oop. That was amazing to watch. Um, Wiseman had an amazing first half. Definitely the first half. He's the best first half or best half in general he's ever played. Probably in his career. I don't know. 11 points, 10 rebounds. He said he was having so much fun out there. He looked really happy. I was happy for him because he was playing so well. Second half cooled off a little bit, but to see him do so well in that first half, especially rebounding the ball, because we've been hard on him that he's has jelly hands, basically can't catch the ball, doesn't go up for rebounds enough, gets out rebounded by guards. But this game, we saw 10 rebounds in the first half, and I think that really shows his potential. If he continues doing that throughout the entire game, obviously he's going to get more minutes as he continues progressing, and it's really it was nice to see him get those rebounds, get those points, and I think that will show how good for a whole game he can be in the future.
Yeah, it was great. I was very happy to see him happy and to see him playing great. I mean, there was that one wide open full court transition dunk that he had that he missed, and
Yeah, can't forget about
Wiseman
that.
almost every game before this would have put his head down and started sulking, but instead he just laughed as he ran back to the court and got a rebound.
Mm,
Right? That's something that just shows growth in his character, and
yeah,
it also just shows that he was having more fun, which is something that in the
right,
end these guys are here to do. And I
right.
want people who are enjoying the game on my team.
Yeah, that's a good point. He would totally just quit basically for the rest of the game, but to see him keep going, keep fighting, get those rebounds, get those in a few more buckets, it was awesome to see. Um, at
Yeah.
the end of the game, this is one of those games where you've missed so many last second shots, last second opportunities throughout the season. We've lost so many nail biters. So it was amazing to see Curry take control. Even Wiggins. Wiggins was struggling the whole game. He came in at the end of the game. He had some really big shots, and we won. We won the game by 1 point. I mean, it was really, really fun to watch. Probably the most fun game I've watched this season. I'm not sure if I can say that. It might be some other games, but it was really, really fun. Curry popping off is always an amazing thing to see, and
Yeah.
it was a great game.
Yeah. It like you were alluding to, it just feels so good to finally win a close game. We've won one of our last 7 games before this. And a lot of those games, excluding the Raptors game, that was the opposite, but a lot of these games were super close or came down to crunch time, were
Right,
games that were winnable, and we just couldn't close it out. They were against good teams too. So it felt really good to be able to go up against a good team, despite them not having Giannis Antetokounmpo. We still were able to go head to head to them and come out with a win. And in the end, a win is a win, and it was a great
right.
win too.
Yeah, great, great win, and especially when you think about the rest of the season, um, looking forward, this game. I think another thing I want to comment on is the way Curry played 2 extra minutes. He played 30 minutes last night. Came in at the 8 minute mark in the last quarter. Normally it's the 6 minute mark. Sometimes he even goes to the 5 minute mark. Um,
Yeah,
I think it shows how much Steph and even Kerr want to compete this year. Moving
Right.
forward, still they really want to make the playoffs. And Kerr he's come out publicly. He said, we're not going to chase wins. We're going to play Steph around 33, 34, 35 minutes each game. He played him 38. I don't know what Steph said to him. Steph joked about it, but
Right.
he was able to get him in there. And I think moving forward, like I said, it shows they want to keep competing. It shows that we're not going to tank. I think what this game shows, because it was such a close game. Even with all the pain Steph was playing in, he came back in. He kept playing out of his mind. Um, so I think moving forward, I want to see Steph play more minutes, but I don't want to see him get injured. Obviously, I'm sure the same thing for Steve Kerr. Um,
Yeah, that real quick, that substitution at the 8 minute mark is something that a lot of Warriors fans have been clamoring for a long time and knocking Steve Kerr, saying like, "Why aren't you doing this? It's so obvious and apparent that if he was in at the 8 minute mark, we would be able to compete and pull out
yeah,
one of these close games." And he finally did put him in earlier in a close game, and look what happened. We won. And so it's a really positive change, and I'm really glad Kurt did it. I hope that when that we are in these close situations where our bench is just getting killed, but our starters are able to come in and slow it down and come out with a win. I really hope that Kerr will put Curry in earlier.
yeah, yeah, I do too. I mean, it shows because I don't. I mean, I don't know. I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure we lose that game if Steph Curry doesn't come in those 2 minutes. I mean, he came in and immediately made an impact.
Right.
Um, so we probably lose without him. And that just shows, again, how valuable Steph is to this team.
Yeah.
So it was great to see.
It's it was really good to finally get that close win, because with this losing streak, it really has felt like, well, maybe we should just tank. Maybe we should just like completely stop going for wins and just try and get a higher pick. But with this win, it gives me at least more confidence to compete for a playoff spot and try and get our guys in the playoffs. Try and get Wiseman and Poole
Yeah.
and Mannion, if he plays, some playoff experience, because I think that would be really, really valuable for next year.
All right, we're going to move on to a new topic, talking about Kelly Oubre, who's been a topic a lot this year. Andrew Bogut, who has a podcast, he said on his podcast, is a quote from him. Oubre said, not exact, but paraphrase. Oubre said something along the way of, "I'm more than a bench player. I wouldn't come off the bench." Now, I'm not going to name the player, but I've heard the Warriors players didn't take too lightly to those comments. They basically made it pretty known that Andre Iguodala, a Finals MVP, was okay coming off the bench. We have Kelly Mother effin Oubre who won't. That was not directed behind his back. That was to his face.
Yeah, that when I first heard of that quote, I was like, "Yikes, that does not sound good." And then also on that podcast, Bogut brought up the fact that the Warriors, he has it on good authority that the Warriors turned down a trade offer for Kelly Oubre from the New Orleans Pelicans, where we would receive Lonzo Ball and a pick as a throw-in. And the fact that we turned that down, and now we're hearing Oubre talking about not wanting to come off the bench, and this almost weird sort of chemistry maybe issues forming. What are you thinking about all this?
Yeah, it's worrisome. I said the same thing, last time talking about, Oubre's comments about not coming off the bench, and now we see his teammates responding to him. I mean, I'd probably say the same thing to him. If he doesn't want to come off the bench when you had Andre Iguodala coming off the bench for so many years, what is he talking about? I agree with this. Whoever said this to him, I agree with them.
Yeah.
But I don't blame Oubre, because even Iguodala was a little hesitant the first time he came off the bench, and
Right.
so is any player in the NBA who has spent their career starting. Even Iguodala was an all-star. He spent his
Yeah.
career.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the difference between, in my eyes, between Iguodala and Oubre. Iguodala, he had already had Oubre. What Oubre has now, he already had that in Philly. He already had the starting job. He already had
Right.
the All Star appearance. He already had the ability to be a huge, impactful starter on a team, and it didn't work out for him. So at that point, he was like, "All right, well, I will try out the six man of the year thing because all I want is a ring." Oubre is still in that earlier, area where he's still trying to make a name for himself, to still kind of trying to find his identity in the league. And so that really is the difference between the Oubre and Iguodala situation.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I'm kind of disappointed in the whole situation, especially the fact that we hear this now and turn down, that trade offer. So
Yeah. It definitely is disappointing in a way, but also um, I think if Oubre gets over this bench thing and comes back next year, I do think can end up being more impactful than Lonzo Ball. I just think he fits with the culture more. He's a wing, which will end up being more valuable next year when we have Clay back. We don't need four guards. Well, it would end up being like six guards. We only need three or four really good guards. And so having Oubre next year would probably end up being more valuable than Lonzo. And so I'm not that mad that we turned it down, but I will be mad if Oubre ends up walking.
yeah, I totally see that. I mean, hopefully he doesn't walk. I think Lonzo would have been a great fit on the team, but obviously didn't happen. So can't go into that either. So
Right. Who do you think, if you had to guess, if you had to bet, who do you think was telling or said this to Oubre?
man, I think so many fans are gonna guess Draymond Green because he's just the guy who doesn't care. But
Right.
I kind of lean more towards a guy like Klay Thompson. I
Mm,
think Klay is so like laid back. He's so relaxed. But we saw him, Draymond came out and said how Klay gets on these guys all the
right.
time. And we don't really see that side of him that much because when he's on the court, he's the most chill guy on the court.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is something he might say, like, hey, you know,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? You're not going to come off the bench, Andre? I don't know. I,
Yeah.
I, I lean more towards Klay. I think it's just kind of something I laugh at it because he is so chill, but I feel like he would say it.
Yeah. I think I would be more mainstream and go with I can literally picture Draymond standing in front of Oubre and screaming at him this
Yeah.
exact line. I mean, he's the guy who yelled at Kevin Durant and called him a bunch of expletives. And, you know, he's not afraid to face up to anyone. And so I would not be surprised. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Clay. I could definitely see that sort of situation that you're talking about where he's been, we've seen him kind of upset on the court and almost disappointed in a way. I'm sure he wishes with all his heart that he could be out there helping us out. Um, but I could see that he just snapped and was like, and yelled at him. But I
Yeah.
definitely think the most likely is Draymond.
Yeah. I mean,
Wouldn't be surprised.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. Either way, I think it's a good thing someone said it to him, but also not a good thing because it's bad for the chemistry. So it's you know that's kind of what we got
Right.
going on with Oubre.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty interesting.
All right, so last thing we're gonna talk about UCLA versus Gonzaga. I hope you
Yeah.
watched the game. Did you watch the game?
Absolutely. I did.
Yeah, what an amazing game. Suggs with the game winner. Coming out just taking over at the end along with Drew Timmy. So just an amazing game to watch. One of the best, I think, me personally, the best college game I've ever seen.
Definitely the best college game I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Maybe, I mean, it's up there. One of the best games I've ever seen. That buzzer beater is close to, not quite, but is pretty close to that Steph buzzer beater from half court in OKC.
oh
Like
yeah,
that was the level of just excitement and adrenaline I had going through my veins after I saw that. It was an amazing shot.
yeah. It was just crazy to watch. I can't even I've gone back and watched it like 4 more times just because it's so
Yeah.
amazing to watch. So that kind of solidifies my opinion on Suggs. I know I said a couple times ago that Suggs is my favorite player. I
Right.
hope we were able to draft him because I just love his game so much. Solidifies that. We saw that just the clutch gene, you know the way he wasn't afraid to take that shot is just really cool
Yeah.
to see. Obviously,
Absolutely.
championship game was a little more
Not as
disappointing.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all around a great March Madness tournament, and I look forward to
Yeah.
the draft lottery and the draft for sure.
Yeah. My only hope is that that shot didn't leapfrog him up to the top three. That
Right.
would definitely suck, but
Yeah.
we'll see. All right. Well, that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you so much if you have gotten to this point. We cannot emphasize enough how grateful we are that you listened. It means a lot. If you enjoyed the episode, go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. It'd help us out a bunch. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe, like the video, and share it with friends. Well, guess we'll catch you next time in Dub's Domain.